Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you guys so much for all of this. Jazakumullah khair. Wallahi, we're really blown away by the surprise. We didn't anticipate anything, and you guys didn't have to trouble yourselves with any of this stuff. But thank you so much. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. I know, speaking for both of us, it makes us feel really warm to come back to this from you guys. Thank you so much. We're both a little embarrassed, so we feel a bit awkward with this kind of attention, but alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Hey Nevaeh.
My bottle.
Your bottle? So I suppose we need to tell you a bit about Hajj. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm just going to talk if you want to jump in.
Yeah, no, go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to start or?
No.
We're going to start.
Start and finish.
Alhamdulillah. So we'll start at the beginning, inshallah. So we'll start off by saying that alhamdulillah, neither me or Amir intended to go to Hajj this year. Subhanallah, there was a series of events that happened before Hajj. 3 months ago, neither of us was thinking about Hajj, neither of us was talking about Hajj. And subhanallah, a series of strange, like sci-fi events happened that led to us going to Hajj. And even when we were on the plane when we're sitting in the airport waiting, we're on the plane, even when we landed there, it still didn't really feel real that we were there. It didn't sink in. We would say to each other, we'd be in a bus or on a plane or waiting for something, and we'd say to each other, can you believe we're here? I remember before we saw the Kaaba, we would say to each other, can you believe we're here? And we'd say, no, it hasn't sunk in. It doesn't feel real yet. So we took off. We did about 30 hours travel from here to Abu Dhabi and then to Medina. And we had a week in Medina, and really that week in Medina was one of the most amazing weeks of my life, I would say. Would you say the same?
Medina was beautiful.
Medina is really, for someone who talks a lot, it's really hard to find the words to explain what it was like. I'll take you through our typical day. So we went there and we had we're sharing a room with 2 other guys. So it's 4 single beds in this room. Me and Amir were the first to arrive. So I strategically chose the bed that was closest to the bathroom and away from the walking traffic of the room. A nice little corner bed. I put my stuff on it, so I claimed it first. And it turned out that they had put 3 single beds and then 1 sort of 3/4 size bed. So the other 2 roommates that arrived later that we didn't know, a couple of lovely guys named Muhammad and Ayman, they were cousins. They came in and they were left with the 2 beds, and it was poor Ayman that got stuck with the 3/4 size bed. So Ayman got stuck with the little bed, and he was a big guy. He's like 100 kilos, and he's like 6 and a bit foot tall. I felt bad when he came in and he got this tiny bed, and it was obviously uncomfortable. He called the hotel to see if they had another bed. There was no beds. I said, I'll swap with you. You can have my bed. He said, no, man, I'm not going to take your bed. So we made a deal at that point, and this deal is going to come into play later in the story. We said, okay, look, when we go to Mecca, you can choose the first bed. And he said, sure. Just remember that for later. So for 1 week in Medina, there's no rituals that you have to do. There's no Umrah. There's no Hajj. You don't have to be anywhere at any specific time. You could just do whatever you want. And each prayer in the Prophet's mosque is worth 1,000 prayers. It's 1,000, right? So me and Amir, I would say, alhamdulillah, we were a good team. We were on a mission to get as many hasanat as we could get. It was like that example that I talked to you guys before Ramadan, when you say it's like the bank vault is open and someone says to you, you've got 20 minutes, whatever you can carry out of the vault, you can keep. So we were just, our job, our full-time job was to get as many hasanat as we could. We didn't care about anything else. We didn't go shopping. We didn't go sightseeing. All we cared about was worship. And any minute that we weren't worshiping, we were like questioning, do I really need to eat? Do I really need to sleep? because I could be in the Prophet's mosque. It wasn't just about the hasanat. I don't want you to think that it was just like a transaction. Being in the Prophet's mosque is really...
Tranquil.
I'm going to try hard not to cry all night, okay? I'm doing all right so far. Being in the Prophet's mosque, Amir said to me, and you can elaborate if you like. He said to me, I feel like I met Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I feel like he's right there, like he's over there. I feel like I met him. I feel like I interacted with him. We went to the Prophet's mosque every day before Fajr. We would wake up at 2, we would wake up at 1:30 in the morning, and we would go to the masjid and just pray until our legs got sore, and then we would read Quran until we were tired of sitting, and then we would make dua until our hands hurt, and then we would pray some more until our feet hurt, and we just kept on repeat. The serenity and the peace and the tranquility that you feel in Medina is not like anything you've ever felt. There's no words. You're just completely at peace. You don't have a care in the world. And all we did was worship until we were exhausted. And even when we're exhausted, we didn't want to sleep. We didn't, we would regret it if we went to bed early and woke up, like slept in for us was waking up just before Fajr. That was sleeping in. That's like you've had a lazy night. If you slept after Isha and you woke up before Fajr, that's, you're playing games.
You read the Quran, you read the hadiths, and you read about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and you think you know him, but when you're there and you see that his grave is right there, and you see his mosque and the beauty of it, you actually feel like you're best friends with him, even though you haven't spoken to him. And the tranquility of a mosque and the beauty of a mosque, and Medina, you didn't feel like it was a chore to pray like you normally do. You felt like you was just at peace praying, and you could just do it all day.
Yeah.
Read the Quran all day, worship all day, and you just felt peace doing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like your normal, even though it was worth only 1,000 times, and Mecca's worth 100,000. I felt like it was so much easier to do 100 times more.
Yeah, you really, I mean, you guys have heard me say until I'm blue in the face about praying and concentrating while you're praying and, forcing yourself. And even if you need to say Assalamu alaikum, salaakum, and start again to get that focus, none of these things happen over there. As Amir perfectly said now, it's all you want to do. You don't want to do anything else. Like the feeling that you get from praying there is better than food, is better than sleep, is better than anything. Like everywhere we went, we had luxurious rooms, we had flat screen TVs, we had all-you-can-eat buffets. We couldn't wait to get away from all that stuff. And we weren't like, it's not like we weren't like pretending to be good Muslims or righteous people. We weren't trying to show each other up. We really didn't care what the other people in the room were doing. We just wanted to be in the masjid. I remember there was one day in Medina where I was really tired because I was waking up. All of us were waking up. We were waking each other up. One of us would wake up at 2 and wake up the room and say, "Let's go to the masjid. We don't need to sleep. Let's go." And we would all go. We would stay there for hours. Like hours would pass, and they felt like minutes. You would get to the masjid at 2 a.m. and Fajr is not until after 4. And that 2 hours, 2.5 hours would just fly, and you would be shocked to hear the adhan. You're like, I just got here, because you're enjoying yourself so much. I could do this. And so we would pray, and our bodies would scream at us and say, "I'm hungry," and we would say, "No, just be quiet." And we would just stay there for as long as we could. There's this particular part of the Prophet's mosque, well, there's 2 parts that I'll tell you about. There's one door of the masjid called Bab as-Salam, which is the door of giving salams, or the door of greeting. So this door is kind of like, not to be disrespectful to the Prophet's mosque, but it's kind of like a drive-through window. You can't go in and sit down. You walk in, and you walk past where the tomb of Prophet Muhammad is, and buried next to him is Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and buried next to him is Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. And you literally say Assalamu alaikum as you walk by, and there's people waving. You say Assalamu alaikum, and you can look through little holes to see the actual tombs.
I think when you read about everything, I think when you read about everything, it's just not the same as going there and visiting it yourself. It's so surreal, and it's like you sit there for years and years and years learning about Islam, and you go there and you say, wow, this is truly it. I really loved every moment, and I could sit here and talk about it all day long. You just have to go and you have to be there. But on top of the tranquility and the peacefulness, I've got a lot more to say about the Medina Mosque. The architecture and the beauty of the actual mosque is, you'll never see another building like it. You'll never ever see another building anywhere near it. It's majestic. It's not. If you didn't know any better, you wouldn't think this is something on earth. The beauty and the lights and the design of it. There's no word for it.
Yeah.
There's no word for it.
Was anyone following my videos on Facebook while I was there? Yeah. So we noticed. Thank you, sister. We noticed that the pigeons didn't fly onto the mosque. They didn't land on the mosque. They didn't poop anywhere on the mosque property. I took a video of it because there's literally hundreds of, like I'm standing, there's hundreds of pigeons and they're pooping everywhere. And just 20 meters away, there's not a trace. There's none of them there. So anyway, this Bab al-Salam, you walk past and you say Salaam alaikum to Prophet Muhammad sallam. And there's a hadith where he says that every time someone, anywhere in the world, you don't have to be there. Anywhere you are in the world, if you send peace and blessings on Prophet Muhammad sallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts his soul back in his body, and angels come to him and say, Amir sends you salams, or Suraya sends you salams, and he says to that angel, send salams back to Amir, or send salams back to Suraya. So this is happening constantly, because all over the world there's the adhan going all the time. People are repeating the adhan. Every time anybody says Muhammad, everyone else has to say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or Alayhi Salam, or peace and blessings be upon him. So there's a constant stream of angels flying to him 24/7. So he's there, he's literally in there 24/7 replying to everybody's salams. And
Those people, the guards almost have to drag him out because they didn't want to leave the Prophet.
Yeah, people.
That's how much they loved him. They didn't want to leave him. They were just.
People would come and they wouldn't want to keep moving, but obviously there's 3 million people all trying to walk through the same place. The guards would have to like manhandle people gently and push them along, and people would start crying. I remember this one man, he looked Russian or Turkestan or something like that. This was towards the end of the time in Medina, so literally it was, I think it was the last time or the second last time that I went through this particular door. And there was an old man, and you could just tell, we didn't speak the same language, I don't know his name, but you could tell he's been saving up for a long time. Like you could tell he's come from a poor country, he wasn't rich, he wasn't well dressed. And he was just, like he would walk away and cry and look back and cry and look back. And I was walking out and I just hugged him. And he hugged me and I hugged him, and neither of us wanted to be the first one to let go. And we just stood there and we cried. He cried on my shoulder, I cried on his shoulder. And we started walking, and I still had my arm over him and he had his arm over me, and we're still both crying. I tried to speak to him, he didn't speak English, I didn't speak his language. We couldn't even ask each other what our names were, except I saw on his clothes he was from Turkestan or Uzbekistan or something like that. And I said, oh, Uzbekistan. It was the only thing I could say. I didn't know anything else to say. I said, Uzbek. He said, yes. And he pointed at me, and I said, Australia. And he nodded, and we just went our separate ways. And it happened again with an African man. A skinny African man, must have been about 60, bald, skinny like a pencil. And he's standing there and he's looking at the tomb of Prophet Muhammad and he's just trembling. He doesn't want to move. And the guards are saying, please move, please move. And it was like someone he knew was dying, and he had to walk away. And so there was a lot of moments like that where you just, someone is standing next to you in the salah, and there's no shaitan there at all. Like any desire or temptation that you have here, it's just not there. Whatever it is that is your weakness here in the dunya, when we were there in Mecca and Medina, it's like you're halfway between this world and the next world. So the rules don't apply. You didn't feel hunger and tiredness the same way. You didn't have any temptations or desires of any kind. And the connection that we struggle to feel here, so we work really hard to try to feel that khushu'. Remember, we had a class, the whole class was on concentration in the prayer and how to feel something. You don't need any classes over there. You'd be standing next to someone, the imam is not reciting a particularly, special surah. Not that all of the surahs are special, of course, but you know what I mean. It's just a normal prayer. It's nothing out of the ordinary. But people everywhere are crying, and after the prayer, you can't speak to them. You don't speak the same language, but you just look at each other, and there's a moment there where you know that I feel what you feel, and so you've got this brotherhood that's really unique that I haven't felt. We met Muslims from everywhere. We met Muslims from all over Europe, from America. One American guy from Texas wants to come and smoke cigars with us here in Australia, and we said, well, we're coming to Hajj to wipe away all the sins, but you can smoke the cigars, but we'll just buy you dinner or something. He wants to come. He's bringing the best cigars, which apparently are called Cohibas, from Cuba. So he said, I'm going to bring you some cigars. We said, leave the cigars, just come. Anyway. There's another section of the Prophet's Masjid, which is a section between the mimbar, between the pulpit, and between the tomb of Prophet Muhammad. So it's only the Rawda, yeah. So the word Rawda in Arabic means garden. And everywhere in the masjid, the carpet is red, except in this little area, the carpet's green. Because Prophet Muhammad, he said, the area between my mimbar, the pulpit, and between his place of death, that area, he said, this is one of the gardens of Jannah. And the scholars have interpreted that in different ways. Frankly, I love all the scholars and everything. I don't care how they interpreted it. If Prophet Muhammad said this place was a garden from the gardens of Jannah, then I want to be in there. And the Saudis had a clever way, which I think is maybe the first year they've done it, to try to accommodate, because everybody wants to go there. You got 3 million people trying to sit in this room. So what they did was they created 7 sections, and they would let a group of people in to fill the section and then close it. And then another group would come in after them and they would close that. And so they would open individual sections and you'd move one section at a time. So basically, if you wanted to go there, you had to wait an hour and a half. So you'd go through 7 sections, you'd wait 15 minutes in each section, and then you would have 15 minutes in this place, the Rawda. And you could pray there and you could make dua there, and it's as if you're in paradise when you're there. So people in our group would do anything to go there just to pray 2 rak'ahs there and make dua there. I remember on the last day, this is the very last day of Medina, we were leaving, and we're all walking through Bab al-Salam to say Salaam alaikum to the Prophet Muhammad one last time. And there was a man who had a broken leg or a broken knee, old man, must have been like 70, and he had a crutch and he had one bad leg, and he was like limping to try to say Salaam alaikum to the Prophet. One of the guys from our group, he went in and grabbed him and started helping him. And as soon as this guy from our group grabbed him and started helping him, one of the security guards pointed at both of them and he said, let them into the Rawda, let them into the Rawda. So this guy from our group was like, what? And he's like, yeah, take this old man to the Rawda. So he's like, yeah, okay. And so limping with this old man, and they opened all the gates and they let the 2 of them go in, and they had like a big chunk of space. Usually it's crammed in there. And they just prayed so just because he wanted to help the old man, he got to go into the Rawda and pray in there and make dua in there, and then walk out. When they finally walked out, the old man, he was so overwhelmed, he was crying so much, he said, put me down. So this is outside the mosque on the ground. He said, just put me down. They put him down, the brothers that were all helping him, and he said, just leave me here. And they said, we can't leave you here. Like, how are we going to leave you here? He said, I don't want, just leave me. And he just sat there on the ground crying because he didn't want to go further away from Prophet Muhammad. So that time in Medina for me, was the highlight. And it feels like another world. You guys seen that movie, The Matrix? Keanu Reeves? Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, he's got a real job, and he's late for work one day, and he gets to work, and his boss tells him off. He says, if you're late again, you're going to get fired. And he's sitting in his little computer cubicle and all that, and his world is really important to him. And then later in the movie, he finds out that world is not real at all, and there's a real world, and you guys have seen the movie, right? So he exits into the real world. Later in the movie, he comes back into the Matrix, which is just a simulation. And he's looking around at his old life. And he said, I used to eat at that restaurant. They had good noodles. But he realizes in that moment that this whole world is fake, and it doesn't mean it. His job didn't mean anything, and his rent didn't mean anything, and the noodle joint didn't mean anything. And that's what it was. So I felt like, and even since we've come back, just on the drive here, me and Amir were talking about what it feels like to be back. We've got a WhatsApp group for everyone that went to Hajj with us, the Zamzam group with Sheikh Shadi, and everyone is depressed. Everyone's depressed. People who have missed their wives, have missed their kids, women who've missed their husbands, and people are posting in the group. I could show you the message. People are saying, "Does anyone else feel terrible, terrible sadness?" And everybody just says, "Yes, I do, I do, I do, I do." And we would complain sometimes when we had to use toilets over there that weren't clean. People were saying just today, I would do anything to go back to that toilet that's in Medina. Once you come back here, nothing about this life feels real. It doesn't feel real. Like, I went to work today. Have you been working?
Yeah, I've been working.
Just relaxing? Yeah. Doesn't feel real. All the concerns, all the things that used to play on your mind, none of it feels real. And you're just, you're going through the motions of work, and you're driving, and you're typing, and you're doing conference calls. And in your mind, you really feel you could just walk away from all of it and it wouldn't matter. You feel like you could just walk out of the job and walk out of your house and walk out of your marriage. Just joking, babe. You feel like you could walk away from any of that stuff and it wouldn't make any difference, because if you could go back to feeling like that, it would be worth it. If you could go back to feeling like that. I had someone at work said to me yesterday was my first day back, and having a cup of coffee, and he says, aren't you glad to be back? And I felt like there was probably a 24-hour pause between when he said that and when I replied. I waited so long because of the shock of the statement. He said, aren't you glad to be back? I said, I wish I never came back. I wish I died when I was over there rather than come back. Why would I want to be? Because not because there's anything bad about Australia, not because there's anything bad about my life, but because the difference between even a good life, which alhamdulillah we all have a good luxurious life, we got lots to eat and lots to drink and houses to live in, even though we're living in what you would call a lot of luxury here in Australia, that's not even, it's not 1% of what you would feel to be over there. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real to be back here. Then we went to Mecca. And Mecca is totally different. By the way, I'll just mention that Prophet Muhammad and his companions were forcibly removed from Mecca. They were being tortured so bad, and if you've been through the course before, you know this. If you haven't, if you're just starting the course for the first time, you'll see this when we get later into the life story of Prophet Muhammad. They were tortured, and they were beaten, and they were killed, and they left because they had to leave. They left because it was suicide to stay there. And Prophet Muhammad, he turned around as he was leaving Mecca, and he said, I know you're the most beloved land to Allah. And if I wasn't forced to leave you, I would never leave you. And he left. And the companions were all so heartbroken and so sad to leave this holy place, which was also their birthplace, that when they arrived in Medina, Prophet Muhammad made a special dua, and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the Muslims love Medina more than Mecca, and to have the blessings of Medina be double the blessings of Mecca. He made all these du'as. The motivation for these du'as is not because Medina is better than Mecca. Mecca is actually better than Medina in the sight of Allah. But he made all these du'as to make it easy on the hearts of the people that were just forced to leave as refugees. And that du'a, of course, the du'a of Prophet Muhammad is answered. And so to this day, everybody in our group, including us, love Medina so much more than Mecca, even though Mecca is a holier place. And any good deed that you do in the vicinity of Mecca, some scholars say any good deed you do is worth 100,000. So we went to Mecca, and alhamdulillah, Brother Amir saw the Kaaba for the first time, which was really emotional for both of us. Can I ask you, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but they've done all this. So. When you saw the Kaaba for the first time, when you laid eyes on it for the first time, what was going through your mind, or what were you feeling?
I'm going to take advantage of his unlimited wishes.
Yeah.
make lots of dough. I want to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
No, I felt there's a lot of history behind the Kaaba, and this is what everyone points at, looks at, and worships towards. Right? And I'm finally here. This is Allah's favourite place on earth. So it was amazing being there after talking about it for so long.
It's really amazing to think when you get there and you see it all, the size of it, it completely blows your mind. Because when you see photos, it looks like the Kaaba is really small, and it's got this gigantic building around it. The Kaaba is actually massive. It's like probably a 4-story building. The Kaaba is actually huge, but because the rest of it is so big, it looks really small. So I showed my son videos where I was this close to the Kaaba, close as that TV, and I'm walking around the Kaaba, and I took a video, and I showing my youngest son, Abdul Rahim, and he said, "That's not the Kaaba, that's too big." And I said, "No, that's really the Kaaba." He goes, "No, the Kaaba is really little." So I had to try to convince him. So I was zooming in and zooming out, and but it's a massive building. And everyone in our group was excited to touch the Kaaba, to kiss the Kaaba. I'll put some photos in WhatsApp for you guys. I was actually just going to come and do our normal lesson tonight, but we can talk about this for a while, inshallah. People were touching the Kaaba, kissing the Kaaba. People were grabbing their babies and rubbing their babies on the Kaaba, thinking it was going to make their babies holy or something. People were bringing bags of clothes. There was someone who actually saw a person brought a bag of clothes. Went up, standing next to the Kaaba is not easy because there's 1 million people, 3 million people trying to stand next to the Kaaba. So you're trying to compete with 3 million people to be in the same physical space as them. And someone brought a bag of clothes and they're pulling out their clothes and rubbing them on the Kaaba, putting them back in. So I'm like, I don't know if you're doing laundry or what are you doing? Anyway.
I was very impressed with it. I feel guilty saying that, but I was more impressed with the of Ibrahim. What do you call it?
Maqam Ibrahim.
Maqam Ibrahim. I thought this is amazing. This is real. This is evidence. This is real evidence. This is the Prophet thousands of years ago. His feet actually sunken in here.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a little glass display case, like glass and gold display case. Inside there's a rock that Prophet Ibrahim stood on. It's got his 2 footprints in it. He stood on that when he was building the walls of the Kaaba. It's still there. I got a photo of it. I'll put it in the group, inshallah. So doing the Hajj rituals then was, this is the difficult part. So Medina was the relaxation and just worship and relax, and all you have to do is eat, sleep, and pray. You don't have to do anything else. Mecca was the hard stuff. So we got to Mecca, and there's a lot of Hajj rituals that you have to do. None of them are really difficult. The difficult part is you're trying to do them at the same time as 3 million other people. So you have to go to a place called Mina, and you have to stay there overnight. Then you have to go to a place called Arafah. And Arafah is really the day of Arafah that you guys all fasted. Remember that day? That day, Prophet Muhammad, he said in a hadith, he said, Al-Hajj Arafah, which means all of Hajj is the day of Arafah. So you could paraphrase that to say the day of Arafah is the core of Hajj. And the whole point of the day of Arafah, you go to Mina the night before to get close to Arafah. Then after Fajr, you go to Arafah so you don't have a long way to travel. And the whole point of Arafah is to make dua for forgiveness all day. The entire day, to make dua to be forgiven. And that's the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching everything, as He always is, and the angels are up there. And there's 3 million people, all as close to naked as you can get. You're literally wearing a towel on the bottom and a towel on the top and nothing else. The women, of course, wear whatever you want. But the men are you're not allowed to wear anything with stitching in it. You're not allowed to wear closed-in shoes. You have to wear thongs. So it's kind of like stripping you down to the minimum. You're not allowed to use any perfumes or colognes or deodorants or even soap that's scented. You have to use unscented soap. So when you go there, everybody looks the same. Everybody smells the same. It's not a nice smell. Everybody's dirty because you're doing a lot of traveling and you don't have changes of clothes and things. You're doing a lot of walking in 40-degree heat. So in the group that we were in, I said to everyone, I want you to think about this day and imagine the day of judgment. Because on the day of judgment, everyone will be naked, everyone will be barefoot, everyone will be running around screaming in terror. It's called Yawmul Hashr, the day people will be crammed together. In every space the size of 1 foot, there'll be 1,000 feet trying to stand on that space that's the size of 1 foot. So it's going to be a hot, busy, uncomfortable, crowded day. And that's kind of as close as you can get is Hajj to the Day of Judgment.
Special, that's a special one.
I got
Special one.
So we're talking about the Day of Judgment and how it feels, and that's the day that you're standing under the hot desert sun, and you're making dua and you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you. And on the Day of Judgment, you're going to stand in the hot sun for 50,000 years and wait until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the Day of Judgment. So we all were thinking about our judgment and our sins. Every single person cried. Every single person cried. The biggest, we had big tough guys with tattoos on their face. They were crying like babies. Everyone was crying because everyone was imagining the Day of Judgment, imagining being hot and crowded and uncomfortable, and imagining that your judgment is imminent, like your judgment is just about to happen and everyone's begging for forgiveness at the same time. SubhanAllah, was over 40 degrees. And the sunnah on the day of Arafah is to stand outside in the sun and make dua in the sun. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to stand for an entire day in 40 degree sunlight. It's not pleasant. So people would do like shifts. They would go in the sun and make dua, and then they would come in the tent and pour water on their face and stand in front of the aircon, and then they'll go back outside. And subhanAllah, apparently this is very rare. Brother Ahmed will know because he used to live in Mecca for 4 years, but it started pouring down with rain in the middle of their summer, desert summer. It started pouring down with rain. As soon as it started pouring down with rain, everybody flooded outside. Everybody left their tents, and everyone was standing in the rain, just dripping with rain and just making dua, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for us to stand outside. And we just, and you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the rain in the Quran as being a mercy. It says, we sent down for you mercy. So we're literally standing on the day of Arafah, on the plain of Arafah, standing showered in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the day, and we all know, the reason why we all get emotional is because that's the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the angels, look at these people, look at my servants. They're all dusty, they're all dirty, and their hair is disheveled. Why have they come here? And the angels say, you know, they've come seeking your forgiveness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm obviously paraphrasing the hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, well, I make all of you angels, you're all witnesses then that I forgive all of these people for all of their past sins. So we stood there for the whole day, making dua until Maghrib. And that was really the emotional climax of the whole thing. Is making dua on that day. After that, there was a few other things we had to do. We had to go to a place called Muzdalifah, which is a big, gigantic dirt patch where there's no buildings, there's no facilities. It's literally dirt and rocks, and you have to sleep the night there. The next day, you have to do some walking, and then for the next 3 consecutive days, you throw stones at the devil. And you saw some people getting real enthusiastic with the stoning of the shaitan. So every day you go and you throw 7 pebbles at these 3 sort of concrete posts, and it's symbolic of stoning the devil who was trying to tempt Prophet Ibrahim to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He recognized it was the devil and he threw stones at him. And so that's what we reenacted. And even me, I got pretty enthusiastic. When you're throwing a rock and you know that you're throwing it at shaitan, you're going to put some extra speed on it. And everybody had like a plastic drink bottles full of pebbles, and you would take 7 out and you would throw them. The day we finished all the rituals, we did the last stoning, I still had like a half a bottle of rocks in my thing. I just threw the whole lot. You had some people, you could tell these were people that really regretted their sins, that shaitan had conned them into disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They didn't feel good about it, and they felt this was their chance to get even, you know. So people were throwing handfuls of rocks, and people were taking off their shoes and throwing their shoes, and you know, the most enthusiastic rock throwing you've ever seen. One African guy had a slingshot. He really wanted to do some damage with that thing. So you're kind of glad the Hajj rituals are over at the end, because it's a lot of walking. There was one day, me and Amir and the 2 guys from our room, we did a 6-hour round trip to go and throw the rocks on the last day and come back. It was 6 hours. Even though it's 5-6 kilometers away, we caught a taxi there, we caught a bus back, so we didn't walk, but it was 6 hours. It was 6 hours in the 40 degrees.
Taxi wasn't much help.
We actually threw out a lot of our clothes, because you would wear something for a day, and it would be so completely immersed in sweat. It was like you jumped in a swimming pool. So when you got back to the hotel and you could take a shower, you couldn't even be bothered washing it, or you just wanted to see the back of this garment forever. So we threw a lot of our clothes away because we didn't want to see them again. Subhanallah, then the feeling of leaving, you know, people, since I got back, I read some articles and some blogs about people's feelings after Hajj, and really the closest thing, and for those who have been to Hajj before, maybe you can weigh in if you like, really the closest thing, it almost feels like somebody close to you has died. That's what it feels like, but a little different. It actually feels more closely like, there's someone who wrote an article about it, and I shared that article on Facebook. I really loved the article, and he said it's like you left your heart behind. It's like you were there and you were whole, and you took your heart out and left it, and you've left, and so you don't feel whole or normal after that. And there was a lot of miracles that we personally experienced, a lot of miracles. There was one day when we first got to Mecca. When we first got to Mecca, it was like a ridiculous bus ride, 10-hour bus ride. To get there, we arrived in like the middle of the night. What time was it? Like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or something, I don't know. It was the middle of the night. We'd just been on a 10-hour bus ride. We're wearing towels, we're hot and uncomfortable, but this was the chance to go see the Kaaba for the first time. So you could have gone to your hotel and slept and woken up at Fajr and gone, but we didn't want to wait. All of us from our room, we went straight away, and I remember Amir said to me, as we were walking there, he said to me, "You should see your face." I said, "Why?" He goes, you've got the most gigantic smile in Korean I've ever seen. And we went there, and subhanAllah, as soon as we stepped in, Amir and the other brothers who seen the Kaaba for the first time, and myself, we all stood and looked at the Kaaba and made dua, as you should do. And just looking at the Kaaba is worship. So just if you don't do anything and your eyes are on the Kaaba, you're getting hasanat, even if you're not doing anything. People brought like little fold-out sofa chairs and just sat in front of the Kaaba like that. They're not doing anything, and it's all getting written as worship and hasanat for them. But subhanAllah, even though we were dead, we were so dead that even as we were going there, Amir said to me, "Man, why don't we sleep and come back?" And I said, "No, man, I'm going. Even if I'm going alone, I'm going." So we all went together, alhamdulillah. And as soon as we walked in, we were all full of energy. We were like buzzing, like it was crazy. And we had to walk around the Kaaba 7 times, pray 2 rak'ahs, drink Zamzam, and then walk between the little hills of Safa and Marwa 7 times. And we were so energetic, we were shocked. We were looking at each other saying, "I'm so full of energy, I don't think I can even sleep." And subhanAllah, as soon as we finished those rituals of 7 times and 7 laps, and we just set foot outside the haram, outside the holy mosque, all the exhaustion that we had before immediately flooded back in. So as soon as we stepped in, we were full of energy. And we were like, "Yeah, I could go all day," and you know, a lot of braggadocio going on. As soon as we stepped out, we were almost saying, what should we do next? Because nobody wants to sleep. As soon as we stepped out, everybody's faces just dropped, and all the exhaustion just hit us like a ton of bricks. And we were like, "Oh well, we gotta go sleep." One thing that really, I'm gonna embarrass you a little bit, just a little bit. One thing really, before we went there, I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna like encourage Amir to do lots of worship. Wallahi, it was the other way. Wallahi, I swear to Allah, it was the other way. Wallahi, it was the other way. And we would be sitting in the room after a meal or something and chilling and talking to each other, and Amir will be the first one to put on his jalabi and say, I'm going to the masjid, who's coming? And sometimes we would go with him, and sometimes he'd go by himself. And I said to him, you know, mashallah, you know, you're taking this seriously. And he's like, "I want to go to Jannah, man. Like, I'm here to go to Jannah, so I'm here to work." Basically, is the thing. So, you know, alhamdulillah, it's really beautiful, because I've known Brother Amir for 3 and a bit years now, and I think probably only him and me, and maybe Alif, maybe Anthony as well. So very few of us have seen the whole 3 years, and I can honestly say that every step of the way of Hajj, I was really inspired by Brother Amir. For someone who 3 years ago wasn't Muslim, 3 years ago was asking lots of really tough questions in this room, a lot of tough questions, a lot. But to come to that conclusion that yes, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and then 3 years later to be putting born Muslims to shame in terms of devotion and worship and stuff. And I also thought, because you're not supposed to argue or fight with anyone during Hajj. So I also thought I would have to keep Amir cool and tell him to calm down. Wallahi, it was the other way. We would be like crushed around the Kaaba, and people are they're not mean, but they're so exhausted that they push you out of the way and they elbow you, and they just they cut you off. All this stuff happens that you just have to be cool about. So I was, the first time we did the tawaf, people were crushing us, and these guys from Nigeria were really rough with everyone, just pushing people out of the way like it's a rugby game. And I'm turning around, looking over my shoulder, and Amir is like in this sea of people, and I'm like, hey, just be cool, man. And he says to me, inshallah, I'll never forget it. He says to me, bro, I'm cool. I'm letting him push me. It's easier than walking. And he was just, and he just like passed me. It was like being in a river, and he's just floated by, and he's like, this is easy, brother. No problem. And this calm was
There's a few
just.
headlocks going on in the background with some of the other guys.
We were just, subhanAllah, we were just so calm the whole time, and we just nothing mattered. Nothing mattered to us except how much time we could be doing any kind of worship that we could do. And that's the only thing we cared about. Even a week and a half in, we asked each other, do you miss your wife and kids? And we both said yes, because we were afraid that the room was had a recording device or something. But really, we really didn't. We did, but we didn't. We never, even though it was 3 weeks, we never got to the point. We never. I know I speak for both. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know for the whole 3 weeks, we never got to the point where we said, yeah, I'm ready to leave. We didn't want to leave. We didn't want to leave. Even
Funny, most holidays you say after 3 to 4 days, 5 days, you say, I want to go home, I want to be in my bed. But and this one was hard work.
The Hajj ritual, just the Hajj rituals, you really suffer. You really suffer a lot. It's every kind of exhaustion, every kind of discomfort, even the small comfort in being able to have a shower and put nice clothes on and put some cologne on. We didn't have that. And you're with 3 million other people that are suffering. So you could just imagine how tempers and moods, but really it was very easy. It was a lot easier than you would think to put it. It wasn't easy, but it was a lot easier than you would think. But there's no amount of, there's no amount of that feeling that you're gonna have enough where you say, okay, I don't want any more. It's just, you just want more. And even now, there's brothers that were at work today that we're all sharing our depression with each other. We're like a little men's support group. There's brothers crying and saying, I fell asleep. I dreamt I was at Hajj. And someone else said, me too. So it's so on our minds. But the only thing we want to do is go back. We don't. The things you used to care about when you lived here, you don't care about anymore. They're not important. And we're just saying, as we're driving here, we feel we've become more patient. I hope that lasts. I hope that's not a temporary thing. But now someone cuts you off in traffic, or I really don't feel there's anything that could really interrupt your mood. Even if one of us lost our job, or if you wrote off your car, I really don't think we would care at all. Not even a little bit. Not even one. We just wouldn't care. We would just be thinking, when can I go back? Yeah. So all the dunya things don't matter at all. You could literally go and say hi to Prophet Muhammad anytime you want. And like Amir said, perfectly said, it doesn't. Here it feels like work because we're surrounded so much by. There's traps everywhere when it comes to your deen. When it comes to being a good Muslim, it's like a constant UFC, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thing to try to be a good Muslim here. It's not like that over there. It's just like breathing. To be a good Muslim over there is just like breathing. Every single prayer, the whole country shuts down, and you hear the adhan everywhere. In the airport, they play the adhan. In the shopping malls, they pray the adhan. They have prayer places everywhere. Every shop closes at prayer time. Everyone prays in congregation every single time. There's not a single woman who's not wearing hijab, let alone anything else uncovered. So it's just completely fitna free. And even if you're a 50-50 Muslim who's just going with the flow, you'll be a fantastic Muslim over there. If you're not really the most in love with prayer, you're still going to pray on time every time. And more than likely, you're going to pray at a masjid every time too. You don't have to try. And when you live like that for a couple of weeks, I know I've been talking forever, when you live like that for a couple of weeks, you really feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's system for how people should live, it makes sense. When you live it, when you really live it for a few weeks, you feel like it totally makes sense. You're like, yeah, this emptiness that was in here, when I live like this, it's not here anymore.
Any
We have
questions?
10 minutes, we can take one or two questions before we go for the cake and wait. And then we end by the salah. Is there any questions for Ahmed and Amir? Do you have any questions?
I do. So you
Yeah.
know when you're in the Hajj and you're doing the walk,
Yeah.
how do the women do it? Like, are they amongst the men? Do they get pushed around as well, or do they go?
There was an 80-year-old lady, and it's so crowded. It's so crowded. As literally an 80-year-old lady, she was there, and she looked like she was about to get stampeded. And I said, "Do you want me to get you out of here?" Because like some of us stronger boys, we could, hold the crowd back a little bit to let her out. And she goes, "No, I don't want to leave."
So she was like amongst.
She was
she
stampeded.
wasn't out.
No, the ladies are fine. So ladies and men are together. Ladies and men are together, and everyone.
But if a lady was to touch the man, she doesn't.
It is what it is. No.
There's no way around it, unfortunately.
There's 3 million people there. Like, it is what it is. There's no way around it. Like even
There's no women.
there's no way around it.
The
Like,
women some women tried to stay together in a group, and they all sort of held each other, and so the men could kind of recognize, okay, this is a big group of women, and you would kind of go around. Some men were accompanying their wives or their mothers, and they would have their wife here, and they would put their arms like this, and they would sort of walk together, so they would kind of had a little, don't touch my wife. I'm like, dude, 3 million people are pushing me, so what do you want me to do? So like, here's one of our Hajj buddies. How are you, brother? Yeah, so everyone does their best. There was more than one occasion where there's like women like here, and behind me there's people pushing, and so the only thing I could do is I put my hands in the air, and they would push me against these women, and I'll be like, oh, astaghfirullah. And then these women would turn around like I'm the bad guy. They would turn around like with an angry face. It's like, you're pushing me, you're touching me, what's going on? And they would just see me going like this, and they would go, it's not him. And even in the elevators, like it's not just like, brother. Even it's not just like we'd get in the elevator. People would be so exhausted they can't wait for the next elevator to get up to their room. We'd get in the elevators and people would keep cramming in, and I'd be like this, and then I would just go. And then like my Hajj group would say, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "I don't want to touch anyone." I would stand in the lift like this, and even the women were like, "Okay, that's going a bit far." Oh man.
You had a question, Nada? You wanted to ask something? Please. Any other questions?
Did you get your head shaved?
Why
Asking
did
about the shit.
Yeah, okay. So when you finish all the Hajj, that's a really good question. When you finish all the Hajj rituals, you get a big reward for shaving your head down to 0 with a blade. Ahmed, correct me. Only for men. The women, they can just take just as much as a finger like that. They can just pull a little bit of hair out like that much and just cut it. But what was the hadith, Ahmed? That's Sayyidina Muhammad said the reward for the people who shave their head. And then someone in the crowd said, "Oh, and what about those who just shorten their hair?" This guy loved his hair. And he's like, "What about shortening his hair?" And the Prophet didn't say anything. He said, "What about those that shorten?" And he didn't say anything. And he said a third time, he said, "What about the ones that just shorten their hair?" And then the Prophet said, okay. And for the ones that shorten their hair, they get a reward too. Something like that, right?
But the main reward is for those who take it completely.
Yeah. So the Prophet's describing the reward for those who shave completely off. And this guy really wants a reward, but he doesn't want to. shave his head. We had guys, not in our group, but in some of the other groups with, long hair down to here, and they've been growing it for years, and then shave it right off. So,
Here it goes.
and you shave your head at the end of the Hajj or at the end of the Umrah, and that's the completion of everything, and then everyone starts calling you Hajj.
Or what
So we
about
got
the females?
Hajj on it. They just pull a little bit out of their hair, and they can just cut that much off, just as much as a little finger.
Oh, okay.
Just cut a little bit off, and that's no. You don't want all these women with shaved heads walking around. It's gonna look kind of
How
funny.
does it feel meeting Muslims coming from hundreds of different countries, continents,
That's one for you.
colors, and
It reminds me of that, you're better saying it, that reminds me of that hadith how they said we've made different tribes for you to meet each other. Because it really was an eye-opener of how these people behave from different countries. But one thing in a negative point, I remember one guy, he put me on show. He made me feel, he didn't mean to, he meant well, he was trying to teach me, but he made me really open up my eyes of how bad I am, how ugly my heart is.
Wow.
Well, in a good way, because it taught me to be better. It taught me to recognise it. I saw a date in the mosque, people throwing a date seed, and I said, look at these pigs throwing a date seed on the mosque. And he looks at me. He's a brother. He's a friend of ours, and he said to me, "Don't get angry. Make dua for him. Feel sorry for him, because these people haven't been given the level of education that you have. They haven't been taught better. You're lucky. What you have is not from you. What you have is from Allah. What I have, and this guy's a dentist, so he's very educated, very nice home. And what you have is from God. It wasn't. You didn't earn it. And I felt like I'm a piece of rubbish. I really am a piece of rubbish, because I never really thought of it like that. And yeah, I'm grateful that I'm educated and know better not to litter, not to throw in the mosque. But these people haven't been afforded that opportunity, that learning. So yeah, when I said, he didn't mean to make me feel bad, but I felt bad because I saw how much better that person is than I am. But yeah, so these are different tribes, different people from different countries, third world countries that you're dealing with. The way they go to the toilet is different to the way we go. We look at them as, oh yeah, look at you, these are animals. Not we might not say it, but some people might think it. Look at you, but that's just how they are, and we're different. But then you realise you're not better than them. You're just fortunate enough to be, or unfortunate enough to be in this country where we're from another country. But yeah, you definitely do meet other tribes and other people. And
We did get a thrill out of asking everybody. You'd see people we'd ask everybody, where are you from? Where are you from? And or people didn't understand sometimes. We'd say Australia. And so we met African people from every part of Africa. We met African people that speak French, because their whole country speak French. People from Libya, Morocco, Finland, Germany, America, England. I met this guy from France, and he was the funniest guy because he spoke Arabic and French. He didn't speak English. So he was Tunisian from France. When he spoke Arabic, he sounded like the most ghetto Arab from the street that there was. And then he would switch to French, and it would sound like beautiful music flying through the air. So when he would speak Arabic, he would be like "Ya gada," and he was really like rough. He was really like street, "Zek ya basha," and he was real street kind of talk. And then he would say, "Oh, parlez-vous français?" Blah, 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 blah. It was the weirdest thing. So he was like a ghetto street Arab, but he was a super classy French aristocrat at the same time. We met people from Asia, 2 guys from China. They're like the most Chinese looking as you can get. We went and said hi to them, and they only speak Chinese and Arabic. They don't speak English. And we started having a conversation with them. They're actually studying in Medina University to become sheikhs and go back to China and be a sheikh in China. So they came to Saudi Arabia not knowing any Arabic, and they studied classical Arabic, so they only speak Fusha, which is the same Arabic that the Quran is written in, which is, you could say, classical Arabic. They only speak that, and Chinese. And it was the weird, like my brain is looking at this Chinese face, and it's saying, "Assalamu alayka ya akhi," and I'm like, it takes you a second, because your brain goes, no, something's wrong with this picture. This face does not sound like this. But it's
What about the Africans? The Africans, when they ran around,
yeah.
they literally reminded me of a documentary where they're running with a spear, you know, like, together. You know, how they run with and they sort of like hop a little bit. And that's what they reminded me of, and yeah, they definitely certainly are different tribes, aren't
Yeah,
they?
and the different.
We don't even run the same as them.
Yeah, some of the African guys, they came down to do their tawaf like they were going to like the Olympics. Like they came down, and mashallah, a lot of them, their physique is like chiseled with a chisel, and they got this perfect physique, and they're only draped in a towel anyway, so you could see the whole the 9-pack going on and all this, and they're coming down like, you know, to do, and you're like, hey, you know, you realize this is prayer, right? This is like praying, you know, and they're like coming down like this, and they would all link arms with each other, and they would just plow through the crowd like a Mack truck, and we would deliberately avoid them. Like we would see them, and they just would push everyone out of the way because mashallah they were so strong. Like, and we'd say to each other, "Oh, it's Africans coming," and we'd just get out of their way. They would just push through. So it was you know you saw things that. They just defied your brain. Like you would be standing side by side, like in Muzdalifah, where there's dirt. You're literally praying on dirt. It's just a brown dirt patch. It's not even nice dirt. It's not soil. It's dirt, right? And you're standing there, and the guy next to you has got a sajada to pray on, and you'll stand up to pray, and that person next to you will put his sajada over here for these 3 people, so they don't have to put their 3 faces in the dirt, but he'll pray in the dirt. It was like you saw stuff like that all the time. Like you saw it was a 40-degree day, and someone's only carrying 1 bottle of water. Like someone our age has got one bottle of water, and you see an 80-year-old man or an 80-year-old woman, and they would just give them the bottle of water. There was people who stopped and prayed in 40-degree heat in the sun. Some other people had umbrellas. Sometimes they would stop and they would just wait and hold their umbrella over this person until they finished praying, and then they would go, or they would give them the umbrella. There was one of the guys in our room, Muhammad, he had several pairs of thongs. I think he brought like 12 pairs of shoes and 17 pairs of thongs. Anyway, must be a shoe guy. But we're going for the long walk, and I told him, bring a few of your thongs. And he's like, oh, which one should I wear? This one's more comfortable, but this one doesn't look as nice, or whatever. And I said, just bring them all, because you'll see people that are barefoot, and you'll give your thongs away to the barefoot people, so just bring them. And that I think it kind of hit him, because he was like, which of these thongs looks better? And I said, well, you'll see people that can't afford shoes, so you're going to want to bring a few so you can give them away. And he was like, oh. And it kind of back, you know, like you said, just back into perspective.
So they
Okay, what
reach
happened
in
to
the
your
pool.
friend that in the bedroom? Sorry, Ahmed.
Yeah.
What happened
Oh
to your
yeah,
friend?
so I didn't tell you what happened. So this is this is the best part of the whole thing. I almost forgot to say. So Ahmed said, so the rich and you could literally have a millionaire wearing 2 white towels next to someone who's totally broke wearing 2 white towels, and they both smell and they're both dirty, and you have no idea who's the millionaire or who's the billionaire or who's the poor guy. Everyone is reduced to no status. No one can see your fancy Mercedes, no one can see your big house, no one can see your wallet, no one can even smell the expensive perfume that you bought. You're just like the Day of Judgment. Everybody just looks completely equal and as close to naked as you can get while still being modestly covered. That's what you got on. So anyway, my roommate Ayman, who got stuck with the dodgy bed, we said, okay, when we get to Mecca, you pick the first bed. So we get to Mecca. I'm the first one to walk in the room, but I already promised him he could have the first bed. Walk in the room. There's beds 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all identical, but we've got a beautiful glass window that looks right down onto the haram. And if you're following me on Facebook or Instagram, all the videos I took of the Kaaba and the people walking around the Kaaba, that was all from our bedroom window. So we walked in, and as soon as I saw the view, my heart just sunk, but I was happy for him.
We all regret we didn't get in the other bed.
We all wish we got the terrible bed in Medina, because then so I walked in and I've just gone, but I was still happy for him. But he walks in and he goes, yeah, I want that bed. That's by the window. Because if you got me on Instagram, I've got a photo of him reclining on his bed like this, and he's looking out the window and he's looking down at the Kaaba. And remember, we said looking at the Kaaba is ibadah, is worship. So he's just sitting in his bed in the air conditioning, just gazing at the Kaaba and just getting hasanat written, and everything is worth 100,000, and he's just sitting there, just relaxing away. So, but you know, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is definitely fair. You know, he got the terrible bed in Medina, he got the good bed in Mecca. So it was completely otherworldly experience. Now I'm going to close off because I know Brother Ahmed has a program by the look of things, and we need to pray and we need to eat some of this stuff. Now, you back me up if you agree, okay? If you have got the money to go to Hajj and you don't go to Hajj, you don't know what you're throwing away. We don't have, between us and other people who've been, we don't have words beautiful enough to explain to you and to make you feel what we felt. It's enough to say that every single one in our group is depressed. I'm talking depression. I'm not saying we're a little bit sad. I'm saying full-blown depression. Full-blown depression that we're not still there. People are already thinking, like people are already putting in the group about their next trip. I want to go to Umrah in December. I want to go to Umrah in January or whatever it is. It's amazing to me that if you knew what we felt and you had the money, you would book today. You would book today. And if you don't have the money for Hajj, you should definitely either save it as quick as you can, or if that's like too difficult, you should go for Umrah. You should go for Umrah because Umrah is like a mini Hajj, and you can go to Medina and spend a week there, and you can go to Mecca, and all the Umrah rituals, they take a couple of hours. So you can go and pray in the Prophet's mosque for a week, and you can have 1,000 multiplied by every thing you do there, and you can go to Mecca, and everything you do in Mecca is multiplied by 100,000. Everything you do is multiplied by 100,000. Charity, reading. We only slept so we could recover to go pray some more. So our intention for sleeping was, I really want to pray, but I can't. I'm so tired. I just want to sleep for the shortest amount of time that will enable me to get up and go back. So you got to do it. You got to do it. And take one of us with you as a guy.
So we need a mahram for Umrah as well?
I don't know about that. There were some women who came without a mahram. I think different sheikhs have different views on that. Like if you're part of a group and you're safe and you're protected.
Yeah,
I think different sheikhs have got different. I know some sheikhs who are happy to take a woman without a mahram as long as the group is they're going to stick together and all that. But I'm sure you could find a way to go. Sure.
Thanks for this question, Ahmed. And subhanAllah, we are lucky that we're living in Australia. I know I lived in Mecca for a few years. I know some people who came to Hajj, they used to save for 10 to 20 years in order to go to Hajj. So imagine someone saving money over 20 years in order to go and visit and do the Hajj or the Umrah.
Yeah.
So we're lucky, subhanAllah, that we can save $10,000 in 1 year and just go.
There was one guy there, he saved, someone from our group met him, we didn't meet him, but someone else met him, he saved for 40 years. Yeah, so literally for him it's once in a lifetime.
My grandfather, it happened to him and he passed away there.
Ah,
Yeah, he finished, he was wearing the white clothes, he finished, he walks down, he got hit by a truck and he died. SubhanAllah, and he saved, like you said, a long time.
Yeah.
Long
So-
time.
So usually it's ladies first, but we want you the Hajj.